Welcome back to Heaven is Real for another NDE story. Today, we are going to look at a very interesting NDE story. During his NDE, Roger met a light being who answered all the questions he had. He also met aliens with advanced technology and was shown the future of the Earth. Let's get into it. My experience is so special that I don't know where to start. It would take hundreds of pages like this one here. I'll try to explain it in a very, very condensed way. First, things started to happen a couple of months before the accident, seeing dead persons, hearing voices just as I would go to bed and relaxing, but not sleeping yet. It would take many pages here to explain this portion, so I'll go straight to the accident day, September 3rd, 1990 at 3:15 local time. Coming back from Quebec City, my friend was driving my car. At a certain point, she lost control of it, and we got involved in a head-on collision with another vehicle. At that moment, I was projected from my body right away and was looking at my friend and my body inside the car. I noticed there was a little fire in the engine area, but nothing too severe at the time. Both of us were not moving and appeared to be dead. She, her spirit, wasn't around me except for her body. I remember wanting to tell my parents and friends about the accident at that moment and that my life was over, say goodbye. Immediately, I was in front of them. It was now daytime, and another day too. I noticed I could travel into time. My friends and parents were not able to see nor hear me. From that point, I thought there was something else waiting for me instead of visiting the living as I was dead. I just let myself go, and in my case, there was no tunnel as I remember from reading some NDE stories in the past. I was even waiting for a tunnel, but none. I went into a dark place with nothing around me, but I wasn't scared. It was really peaceful there. I then began to see my whole life unfolding before me, as if a film being projected on a screen, from babyhood to adult life. It was so real. I was looking at myself, but better than a 3D movie, as I was also capable of sensing the feelings of the persons I had interacted with through the years. I could feel the good and bad emotions I made them go through. I was also capable of seeing that the better I made them feel, and the better the emotions they had because of me would give me some credits, karma, and that the bad ones would take some of it back, just like in a bank account. But here, it was like a karma account to my knowledge. The more points, karma, I got would give me permission to access a better area or a better place somewhere. It was the knowledge I had then. At the end of the film, life presentation, everything went black for a while, almost like in a real movie before they turn on the light. I then understood through this knowledge that I deserved a place in what we call heaven without knowing what it would be like, or what is heaven. I felt a wonderful feeling of peace, which became stronger and stronger, such a nice feeling. In the darkness, I began to see a light in the distance ahead of me. I was attracted to it, but I remember thinking that I could also go away from it or even go back. No way, I said to myself. I came closer and closer to it. The feeling of great peace became so strong, so good. In real life, I am the type of person who likes to go into details to see how things work. I didn't want to go too fast and wanted to understand what was going on here. I then got into orbit. That's the best terms to describe it, around the light. It was like a cone of light. I heard the words, peace, joy, happiness, love, eternity, while I was in orbit around this great, really huge cone of light. I remember that those 5 words, as a whole, became the only important thing in the universe for me, and I had to get rid of everything else in order to enter into the light. Here I'll skip some details, too long. The feeling of peace was replaced with a feeling of love. I remembered that something was preventing me from entering the light at that moment, and after having analyzed it, I realized that it was grudges I kept towards a few persons. I had to forgive them in order to purify myself from all negative thoughts I could have had toward them. Now that I had the permission to enter the light, I could almost touch it, wanted to enter it, but I was holding back in order to see more details before actually entering the light. I remember also that I was at the bottom of the light cone. After a certain time, I let myself go and bang, just like an explosion of love. The feeling I had before getting into the light was great, but still a feeling I could explain with human words. But inside, no way. No words can explain that feeling except I thought I would die, because these feelings of love were so strong. I was amazed I could still think like I did on Earth, and at that point I started to laugh as I thought, how can I die as I am already dead? So bring on all the love you can, I said, because I knew the light or intelligence in it could understand me. I thought at that point there was nothing better, and it might be dangerous to increase the love sensation, as it was already far better and stronger than any expectation of heaven I ever had. As I mentioned, yes, more love please. The sensation of great love grew even stronger, and I noticed there were different levels in the light. I've noticed at that point I had the complete knowledge of the universe available to me, and I simply had to ask to know. How great, I thought. My first question: is there life elsewhere? I guess you know the answer to that. If you don't, it's a big yes. My second question: are there many planets that have more superior life forms than we have on Earth? The answer is thousands of planets having a higher evolution than you know on Earth. My third question: are there many planets with a lower evolution than Earth? Yes, thousands too. My fourth question: can I see what it looks like on a planet with a higher evolution? Yes. Here you are. In an instant, I was there on another planet. I was able to see my body there. I can't see my body in the light. I'm in the presence of people and am able to talk to them. How great, I thought. They were amazed to see me in front of them. I was in some sort of city with flat ground. There were buildings with no windows nor doors, just like big boxes. They had a special way to enter them, but it wasn't very important for me to know it. We weren't communicating with voice, but through the minds, telepathic. I was able to understand each word, in French to me, and while I was talking, I know I was using another language with them. This was all done automatically. They were asking me where I come from. They wanted to see in my mind the stars I could see from my planet. The result was good. They were also asking me where on Earth I was born, what was the area I liked to see, and what I liked to do on Earth. I told them I was born in a village called Kaplan, and that I like scuba diving in Port Daniel and Newport, Quebec. They wanted to see in my mind what it looks like, and a map of those areas. They asked me to show them, if I wanted to. The result, again, was good as I was capable of mentally showing them the map. They asked me where I was taking the energy to survive. I knew right away that they were talking about food in a strange way. I told them about the plants that we eat on Earth, and then they said, "Are you also eating what used to be alive?" I said yes. They told me, "We knew there were primitive civilizations, but not as bad as that." They were really surprised that someone coming from such a primitive world could meet them on their own planet. I asked the one, kind of in charge or representing the group, "Where do you take your energy here to survive?" They said, "We take it from the cosmic power as you do, but directly instead of going through natural interfaces as you do." I also asked, "Do you sometimes travel to other worlds?" The same one said, "Yes, we do," and showed me a spaceship, almost like an airplane, but without wings. I asked him, "What kind of energy are you using to travel so far?" He said, "We are using a gravity generator to get almost unlimited speed." I talked about the problems we had on Earth with great acceleration due to the gravity forces involved. He said, "Our gravity generator affects the entire spaceship, including people on board, so there's no gravity force at all affecting passengers or crew." I remember, by the way, that physically speaking they were shorter than us and walked slowly compared to us. Also, they didn't have any hair. They had a strange uniform, which molded to their skin as if it were part of it. It was hard to tell where it began and ended. They told me, "We might go to see your planet sometime in a near future, but it is very far from here." I said, "No problems, but be careful." I said goodbye and thanked them for the information, etc. I went away from them, and at night, I took the time to look at the stars. It was nothing like on Earth. And there wasn't any moon also, but the sky was beautiful with lots of stars. A few years later, some local people, including a couple of policemen, saw a UFO in Kaplan, Port Daniel, and Newport, all on that same night. The same description at the same time in different villages. It has been reported too in the local newspaper. It has been described as something that looked somewhat like the Concorde plane without wings, but made no noise, not a sound in the air, and was seen only a few feet from the ground, and not moving for a while. At that time, I was living in Montreal, more than 500 miles away from there. Getting back to my story, after looking at the stars from that planet, I decided to go back to my origin, and the origin of everything, the light. What a fantastic trip, I thought. When I think about humans having a hard time to reach the moon and back, to me now, going to the moon was as simple as crossing the street, and going to a planet about 100 light years away was as simple as going to the next village. I also asked, while being in the knowledge level of the light, can I see less evolved planets? Yes, here you are. There were some primitive cavemen, full of hair, chasing strange animals, big ones. I tried to communicate with them, but with no results. They couldn't see me nor hear me. It wasn't too interesting there, so I've decided to go back to the light. I learned while I was back that we could not interfere with primitive worlds, and it's the main reason there's a great distance in between planets to act as a buffer preventing us from reaching their world, as it could be very dangerous to their evolution, since they must go through theirs by themselves, as we need to ourselves. In a next life, we humans will be incarnated on another more evolved planet, because there's a minimum and a maximum evolution permitted on Earth, and past that point, the most evolved and intelligent person on Earth will be the less evolved and the most primitive person on a more advanced world. I thought about asking some questions regarding Earth. Life will last until what human years as we calculate it now? Answer: 3587. What would happen then? See for yourself. I saw something real big coming, as a comet or an asteroid. Humans were still here on Earth at the time. Will be, I should say. There was total panic on Earth, because scientists will know it's the end of all life on this planet because of that, and they will not be able to see it long enough in advance to avoid it. I took some time to look here and there in the nearest future. I wasn't able to bring back exact years nor time, as it could affect what should happen for our own evolution. I know as I told my story to some people after 1990, the year of the accident, that there will be many conflicts involving the USA. And I remember that it will start right in New York City in a few years from now, 1990. I had no information that it would be the World Trade Center, and what year exactly, but was sure it was New York City, and that all the people of Earth would be aware of what would happen. It's now part of the past, 9/11. After that, the East Coast mainly will be affected. There was a major city in a north-central state that would be affected. Almost nothing to the West Coast would be affected. Because of that, as I am sure of it, I'll never move to a major city on the East Coast, even if some company were to entice me with a very good six-figure salary to begin with. I remember, I had all the dates and exact times of every event in each city. I said to myself, now that I am dead, I can't change anything anyway. I went to the end of the conflict. Even more frightening. Because of the conflict with different countries and less investment in space research and NASA, no one can see something happening and approaching Earth. Some small asteroid, but big enough to cause substantial damage on Earth. The good news in all that is that because of this event, all nations will stop all their conflicts and try to work together instead of fighting each other, but it will be too late to avoid what could have been avoided. Starting from that point, the different nations will realize the stupidity of war and will work together for many years to come. There will be, finally, peace on Earth, but millions of lives lost which could have been avoided. I know this is not too far away in time. Getting back to some more positive things, I went to a higher level into the light, so wonderful, so much love. This is higher than the level of knowledge, the level of creation as I call it. Everything becomes possible. Creating physical things and sharing the creation level with God. Yes, I know. It's hard to believe. I didn't want to come back here on earth because I had come from a place of infinite love and beauty. But nonetheless, I had underestimated the infinite power of the light, and at that instant, I formulated a wish that I'd like to return to earth in order to share this knowledge with as many people as possible. What I didn't know was that a wish formulated at this level in the light becomes reality. Upon formulating this wish, I saw myself pulled toward the bottom of the light cone, and I slowly found myself outside of it. I suddenly realized I could see my body once more. It's then that I saw my friend. She was coming toward me and the light behind me. She was dressed completely in white, like a bride, not walking, but as though floating. I had the impression that I was on my friend's path as she was slowly moving toward me. I was going to bump into her and instinctively raised my arms to prevent this. She did the same. As we came closer together, our hands touched, and I was astonished at the flashes and sparks of light emanating from them. As the members of our bodies fused together, it's when our brains fused that we could read each other's thoughts perfectly without any possibility of error. This was despite the tremendous speed at which this took place. It's here that I made her realize that we're not using speech, but telepathy, and want to make a test. I want to see if at this point we can still use speech. I began to talk and realized that I was using her expressions and vocabulary while conversing, but that this was taking way too long, and we returned to our new way of communication. So much faster and with feelings also. She was explaining to me that she would be staying in the light and that her time on earth was over. She knew that I, however, was returning to earth and would never forget this experience as it was so much better than what we had known physically. The feelings of love were growing weaker and weaker, and I could now see the wider scope of everything on earth. Wars, greed, anger, racism, etc. As I was getting closer and closer, and I was very much saddened by it all. Suddenly, I was back in the car, flames leaping all around. I turned and saw my friend's body, and knew beyond doubt that she no longer inhabited it. The light gave me just enough time to exit the vehicle before the flames would reach me. An autopsy was performed on my friend, and it concluded that she died before the flames got to her. My healing process was nothing short of miraculous despite the many broken bones. The attending physician was stupefied by my progress. I have returned with a few paranormal talents and some gifts.